Hi everyone, thanks again for visiting my channel, Crocheting Around My Kitchen Table. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you know when I upload a new video tutorial. This video tutorial is for the Glam Chicks pattern, a collaboration with Vivian, Chaw, Beechinor, and myself. For this project, you will need any worsted weight yarn in any color combination you like. I'm going to be using Red Heart Super Saver and Turqua for the body of the Glam Chick. For the palm hair, the side wings, and the tail feathers, I'm going to be using Icelandic and Red Heart. For the beak and the legs, I'm going to be using Saffron, which is a color also by Red Heart. You will need, because it's a stuffy, some polyfill or scraps. I'm going to be using scraps for the filler. A G hook. For the eyes, I'm going to be using sunglasses. You can use the flat back or the button. You can use wiggle eyes. You can embroider eyes. You can use safety eyes because it is a stuffy. You will need a stitch marker, a needle, and a pair of scissors. So let's get started. We'll begin by making a slip knot and chaining 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In the second chain from the hook, you will place 3 yarn under single crochet. Let's insert your hook, yarn under the hook, pull through, yarn over the hook, and finish it. Insert your hook, yarn under the hook, yarn over the hook, and pull through. In the next 4 stitches, you will place 1 yarn under single crochet. In the last chain, you will place 5 yarn under single crochet. You will now be working on this side of the chain by placing 1 yarn under single crochet in the next 4 chains. In the very last chain where you place 3 yarn under single crochets, you will place 2 yarn under single crochets. For a total in this round of 18 yarn under single crochets. This ends round 1. For round 2, you will place 1 yarn under single crochet into the very first stitch of round 1. And you will place your stitch marker into the very first stitch, and you will continue to move the stitch marker for each round. In the next stitch, you will place 2 yarn under single crochets. In the next 6 stitches, you will place 1 yarn under single crochet. In the next stitch, you will place 2 yarn under single crochet. In the next stitch, you will place 1 yarn under single crochet. In the next stitch, you will place 2 yarn under single crochet. In the next 6 stitches, you will place 1 yarn under single crochet. In the last stitch of round 2, you will place 2 yarn under single crochets for a total of 22 yarn under single crochets in round 2. That ends round 2. To begin round 3, you will place 2 yarn under single crochets in the first stitch. I'm going to place my stitch marker into the very first stitch. In the next stitch, you will place 2 yarn under single crochets. In the next 8 stitches, you will place 1 yarn under single crochet. On this end, you will place 2 yarn under single crochets in the next 3 stitches. In the next 8 stitches, you will place 1 yarn under single crochet. In the last stitch of round 3, you will place 2 yarn under single crochets. You should have a total of 28 stitches in round 3. That ends round 3. Beginning round 4, I will place 1 yarn under single crochet into the first stitch. I'm going to place my stitch marker into that first stitch. And I will place 1 yarn under single crochet in each stitch around. For round 4, I placed 1 yarn under single crochet into each stitch around for a total of 28 yarn under single crochets, and that ends round 4. For rounds 5 through 10, you will continue to place 1 yarn under single crochet into each stitch around. Please remember to keep moving your stitch marker to mark the beginning of each round. I will meet you at the end of round 10. I have just finished round 10. Beginning round 11, I will place 1 yarn under single crochet in the first stitch. I will place my stitch marker back. This is the round where we will create the base for the neck. In the next 7 stitches, I will place 1 yarn under single crochet. I will skip the next 13 stitches and place 1 yarn under single crochet in the last 7 stitches of the round. You can also count back from the stitch marker 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. In that 7th one, that's where I will start to place my 1 yarn under single crochet. I have finished placing the 7 yarn under single crochets on this side. Altogether, the stitch at the stitch marker plus the 7 on this side and the 7 on the opposite side is a total of 15 yarn under single crochets in round 11. In round 12, I would place 1 yarn under single crochet in the first stitch. I will now place 1 yarn under single crochet in the next 14 stitches around the neck base that we created in round 11. When getting to the middle of the check, it's probably best to flatten the piece out a little bit so you can see that stitch lying right over the center. And just continue to place 1 yarn under in that stitch and 1 yarn under single crochet in the next 6 stitches. I have finished placing 1 yarn under single crochet in each stitch around for a total of 15 yarn under single crochets for round 12. For rounds 13 through 15, you will continue to place 1 yarn under single crochet into each stitch around. I will meet you at the end of round 15. I finished round 13 through 15, placing 1 yarn under single crochet in each stitch around. We are going to close it in round 16 and 17, however, now is a good time to place the beak and the sunglasses or the eyes of choice while it's open and it's easier to get to. To place our beak, we're going to drop down from the row that the stitch marker is in, this row right here, and drop down to the second row. We're going to find the vertical stitch and we're going to join the beak color of choice with a simple slip stitch. You can tighten that down. From here you will chain 2 and you will place 1/2 double crochet into the same place. You will chain 1. We're going to create a picot by slip stitching into the front 2 loops of that 1/2 double crochet. Then you will place 1/2 double crochet into the same place and finish it with 1 slip stitch. And you cut your piece off, fasten off, and pull your yarn out. And there is your beak. To finish the beak, I'm just going to grab those tails from the outside with my hook and bring them on the inside. I'm not going to even trim them because it just gives me more filler. One on either side. And you can see everything, and that's why I don't like to close things off. You can tighten this down, that beak, by just pulling on the tails and getting it into the right position that you'd like. To place my sunshades for the eyes, I've already tied a piece of yarn to the shank part of the button. I'm just going to simply put it into the space right above the beak, slide it through, and I'm just going to tie it to the beak yarn tails so that it stays in place even more secure. gonna be a little loose because after I stuff it, it leaves me room to place some glue on it. And that's just more filler. Round 16 is our decrease round. Begin by placing 1 yarn under single crochet into the first stitch. And place my stitch marker back into that first stitch. And we're going to begin by making invisible decreases. I'm going to grab the front loop of the next stitch over, insert our hook into the stitch after that, front loop only, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. Going to insert your hook into the front loop of the next stitch, insert our hook into the front loop of the stitch after, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. Insert your hook into the next stitch, insert your hook into the front loop of the next stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. You have so far 3 invisible decrease stitches. You will continue that all the way around until you have 7 invisible decreases. I have finished making all 7 of my invisible decreases for round 16. To finish the round, I'm going to simply slip stitch into the first stitch of the round. I'm going to cut a good piece because this yarn is going to be used to seam up the back of our glam check. I'll take a good piece. And I'm simply going to just yarn over and pull through. For round 17, I've already threaded the long tail to my needle. I'm going to weave in the needle to the front loop only of each invisible decrease, from the outside in through each one. At the end of the round, I will weave the needle into that first stitch and pull. I'm going to weave the needle through the stitches that we made at the very top, just to secure it in place. I'm going to insert my needle through the center and grab it carefully so it doesn't grab the sides. There we go. We're going to use this yarn to close up the back of our glam check. We're going to set aside our glam check for now because we're going to make the pom-pom hair. This was taught to me by Vivian. You'll leave a 4-inch tail and start wrapping the yarn around the widest part of your hand, and continue to do that 20, 30, 40 times, however fluffy you want the pom-pom for your hair. After you have reached the amount that you want, going to trim the yarn. You're going to slide it off carefully from your hand, just like that. Wrap the tail around it. To create a little bundle. Just tie it. And I like to just do this to tie it together so it doesn't unravel. And then I like to take another piece and just tie it around. Make that knot. Because this one's not going to be long enough, I don't think. But I will tie it really, really tight so that when we're ready to make it into a palm, the strings aren't completely coming out. I'm going to take another piece, a little bit longer because I am going to attach it to the head, and I want to make sure there's plenty of yarn for the knots. And I like to just anchor that in place with that original yarn and then really tighten this down. And then I'm going to trim the other pieces. Okay, so this is the yarn I attached, and that's pretty tight. These, I'm just going to cut a little bit shorter and make it a part of my palm. I'm going to take this part here, and we're just going to attach it by tying it around the center here with the tails. I have attached and knotted the pom-pom hair to the top of the head and woven in the tails inside the head. And I started cutting so you can see what it looks like. And all I did was take my scissors and cut the loops. For added texture and fuller hair, I take my needle and I separate the plies of the yarn to give it an extra fluffiness and make the yarn ply look more like tendrils of hair. You see I started doing it there. You can do it to some of it, you can do it to all of it, or you can just leave it like it is. I think it just adds something to it. A bit more fluffy. We'll now begin our glam check legs. I'm going to start off with a slip knot, and I'm going to chain 12. I have made my chain 12 and I place a stitch marker in the 4th chain from the hook. Now we'll begin our first claw. In the 2nd chain from the hook, I'm going to place 1 slip stitch. In the next chain, I'm going to place 1 slip stitch. I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. In the 2nd chain, I'm going to place 1 slip stitch. In the next chain, 1 slip stitch. I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. In the 2nd chain from the hook, 1 slip stitch. In the 3rd chain from the hook, 1 slip stitch. After making our 3rd claw, you're going to slip stitch into the chain with the stitch marker. Going to slip stitch through 2 loops on the chain. You're going to place 1 slip stitch into each chain back to the beginning, making sure to slip stitch through 2 loops. I have finished making my last slip stitch on the chain, and all I'm going to do is fasten off, trim my yarn, and pull the yarn through the loop and tighten it down. You will make one more leg, and the recommended placement for placing the legs and tying them is the third round from the bottom, between the third and the fourth, or the fourth, wherever you'd like to place it, of course, and centered in the middle of your glam check. I have finished placing both of my legs, knotting them on the inside of my check, and I've tried to space them approximately 3 to 4 stitches apart. I have placed some yarn scraps for filler. You can use polyfill if you'd like. On round 11, I have marked the 2 stitches that aren't touching each other and where I will begin the slip stitch to close the back of our glam check. When you pinch these 2 pieces together, there is one lone stitch. This I placed a stitch marker because that is where we will place our tail feathers. To begin to close the back of the glam check, make sure that the long yarn tail is on the right side of the needle, because all I'm going to do is pinch it, remove the needle, insert my hook, yarn over, and bring it through the 2 loops. I'm going to just grab the next inner loop of the next stitch. There's that V stitch. I'm just going to grab the middle one, or the inside one, the inner loop, and grab the inner loop on the other side, yarn over, pull through the 2 loops and the loop on your hook. And that's how I'm going to slip stitch closed the back, grabbing both of the inner loops and slip stitching through all 3 of those loops. I finished closing the back of the glam check with those slip stitches. At the very end, I'm simply going to chain 1 and pull the yarn tail through the loop all the way. I'm going to tighten it, trim it, and then weave in the rest through the body. To begin the tail feathers, I'm going to join the yarn to the front loop only of the stitch to the right of the stitch marker. I'm just going to do a simple slip stitch join. And then tighten it down. We'll begin by making the small feather. I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to make 1 treble crochet, yarn over twice, insert our hook into the same place, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through the first 2 loops, yarn over through the second 2 loops, yarn over through the last 2 loops. We're going to create a picot by chaining 2 and slip stitching into the front 2 loops of that treble crochet. You will then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch back into the same stitch to finish our first small feather. In the next stitch over, we will make a larger feather. I'm going to remove my stitch marker. Into both loops, I'm going to make 1 slip stitch, and I like to carry the tail through so I can tighten it all together. There's that little tail. And I'm just going to crochet over it. I'm going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to make 1 extended treble crochet, yarn over twice, insert our hook into the same place, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through the first loop only, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 more loops, yarn over through the last 2 loops. Now we're going to make a picot. We're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and slip stitch into the front 2 loops of that extended treble crochet and pull through the loop on your hook, creating that little picot. We're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 3 and 4. I'll count that, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then slip stitch right back into that stitch to finish off our larger feather. In the front loop of the next stitch, we'll make another small feather. Begin by making 1 slip stitch into that front loop only. I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to make 1 treble crochet, which is yarn over twice, insert our hook into the same place, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through the first 2 loops, yarn over through the second 2 loops, yarn over through the last 2 loops. We'll make a picot by chaining 2, 1, 2, slip stitch into the front 2 loops of the treble crochet, yarn over, pull through, and through again the loop on your hook. Going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch back into the same stitch to finish our small feather. Going to trim my yarn. Going to fasten off. Pull tight. I'm going to pull the smaller one here. Cinches this pretty good together. I'm going to weave in the tails and fluff out the feathers a bit. See that little picot. And we have finished our tail feathers. To make our wing, I'm going to count 4 stitches down from the closure of the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to join my yarn in this vertical stitch. With just a simple slip stitch. I'm going to tighten it down, and I'm going to make a small feather first. Just like our tail feathers, I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Going to make 1 treble crochet, slide into the same stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through the first 2 loops, yarn over through the second 2 loops, yarn over through the last 2 loops. Going to make a picot, chain 1, chain 2, slip stitch through the front 2 loops of that treble crochet and the loop on our hook. Going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch back into the same place, completing a small feather. I'm going to continue and make a larger feather, personal choice, in the stitch above the small feather. I'm going to start off with a slip stitch into the next vertical stitch. Going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to yarn over twice and make 1 extended treble crochet. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over through the first loop, yarn over through the next 2 loops, yarn over through the next 2 loops, yarn over through the last 2 loops. I'm going to chain 2, slip stitch into the front 2 loops of that extended treble crochet and through the loop on my hook to make a picot. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and slip stitch right back into the same place. I'm going to trim my yarn. I'm going to fasten off. Tighten that down. I've completed my second wing. This time, however, instead of counting 4 stitches from the closure, I counted 3. 1, 2, 3. And in that vertical stitch, I made a large feather. In the next stitch beneath, I made a smaller feather. I'm going to show you another wing that we have used for our glam checks. This one's a little bit simpler. We are still going to count in the same place, starting from the slip stitch close that we made. Count 4 rows down. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to insert my hook and join the yarn for my wing with a simple slip stitch. And tighten it down. I'm going to chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Slip stitch right back into that same spot. I'm going to chain 10 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Slip stitch right back into that same place. We're going to chain another 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And slip stitch right back into that same spot. Going to fasten off. Pull out the yarn, tighten that down, tighten this down a bit, and you see that we've made this very pretty wing. You'll do the same to the other side. Count 4 down, 1, 2, 3, 4. And use this stitch between the 4th and the 5th to make another wing. I finished my glam check, gluing down all of the embellishments that I chose. I even glued down the pom-pom hair to round 17 so there's less wiggle. I've woven in all of the tails, and now I'm going to do a quick twirl. You can have an Easter Bunny glam check along with ears, a pom-pom for a cottontail, and a little crochet Easter basket. You can also make a St. Patrick's Day glam check along with leprechaun hat, maybe a little rhinestone accent to the sunglasses, a little pot of gold, or even a 3-leaf clover rhinestone necklace. You can try short hair. And you can try long hair. Your glam check can have any look with color, embellishments, and accessories of choice. This has been the video tutorial for the Glam Chicks pattern in collaboration with Vivian, Chaw, Beechinor, and myself. Thanks again for visiting my channel, Crocheting Around My Kitchen Table. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you know when I upload a new video tutorial. Thanks again for watching.